people. And I will not forget that, because prior to or sometime during, there was a cross burned. And it was at Dewey Thomas's house. I'll just call his name. It was at Dewey Thomas's house. They burned a cross. So my father took me to see that cross burning. And he said, I want you to see this cross, because they're burning this cross for you. And I don't want you to ever fear that cross. So because of my experience going through what I went through as a 6-year-old child, I feared nothing. I feared nothing. I think it has made me stronger. It has certainly made me wiser, but it has taught me to love even more. So when I would get off the school bus, when she finally decided to pick me up because she had to have a court order, the first day I'm standing there, imagine you're 6, imagine your child is 6, and imagine the school bus going by. They weren't going to pick you up. They had to turn around because they went to Pocosin, go back by. So now you're going to court to get a school bus to pick you up. And that judge looks at you and says to you, he says, honey, the bus will pick you up tomorrow. And I'm like, yes, sir. Judge Hoffman. I'll never forget him either. He said, if the bus doesn't pick you up, I will. He said, but they don't want me to pick you up tomorrow. And the next day, the bus stopped. Okay, so I had to sit on the front seat of the bus. And I thought it was because I was special. And they thought it was some sort of punishment. I don't know what they thought. But if you remember back then, there was no heat, there was no air on the bus. I had the front seat, the very first seat behind the driver. I thought I was special. And back then, the driver had the fan, the driver had the heat. I had the fan, I had the heat. So I was special.
Yes, ma'am.
When I got off the school bus, the principal, Mr. Herbert Deputy, I'll never forget him either. He was a good man. I was 6 again, and this man stood 6-some feet tall. He met me at the school bus because I was special. He walked me into the school. When school was out, he walked me to the bus because I was special. Okay, so they put the classroom right next to the office. And I never knew why. I figured we were just overcrowded, but it was because if there was ever a problem, I went straight into the office and not the school. So that's one thing. Another thing is, I never heard the N-word until I got to Grafton, Bethel. So even though my skin is as light as it is and my complexion is as bright as it is, I carry the same N proudly on my birth certificate. And they knew that. The students didn't know that, but the parents did. And I fault the parents because we got along just fine in the beginning until they would go home and have dinner, and now they have this little Negro girl in school. So then one day I go to school, and all of a sudden I hear these kids down the hall, nigger, 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 nigger. And I said, well, what in the world? Are they talking to me? And then they said, nigger, nigger. So I go home and my mom says, and I'm proud to tell you, she was a 2nd grade teacher here at James Weldon Johnson. So I'm very proud of that. My father was president of PTA and NAACP as well. So I go home and my mom says, how is it? My voice shakes, I'm so sorry. How's school? I said, Mom, it's funny. She said, what's funny about it? I said, well, nobody knows my name. She said, they don't know your name? I said, no. She said, what do they call you? I said, they call me a nigger, a nigger, a nigger. She says, well, what do you say? I said, Anita, Anita, Anita. But that is the innocence of a child. That is the innocence of a child. So she then told me what they were calling me. So that night, evening, whatever, she had hemmed a coat for me. And in that coat pocket, she left a razor blade. Now, let me tell you, I have 3 brothers. I can hold my own, okay? I can go up against any guy in this room can tell you, if you were on Chapel Road, you could play baseball, you could kick a dodgeball, you could do anything, okay? So I had that razor blade, and that boy, I know his name, but I won't call it. He called me the N-word. I took off after. I almost caught him, but the teacher caught me first. And when they caught me, off to the office I go, tell Mr. Deputy my story. And next thing I know, my father's at school. Oh, Lord, I'm going to get a whipping. I'm going to get a whipping. So he comes and gets me, takes me, sits in the car. And I looked at him, he looked at me, he says, you want some ice cream? I will never forget, it's like the only time I didn't get a whipping. He said, I'm proud of you because you stood for yourself.
Amen.
And I've stood for myself ever since, and I'm never going to stop doing it. So, and then I would learn, as time went on, one of my friends said, I can't play with you anymore. My parents said, I can't play with you, I can't talk with you. So that was like the longest year ever. But I would go home, I had my brothers, we're always very close, and like I said, I don't talk about it. And I told my friend in Texas, I said, Rob, I don't know what to say. He said, Anita, just tell him your story. You have to tell your story. He said, if you don't tell your story, people won't know.
That's right.
And I said, okay, Rob, okay. So that's some of my story, y'all. It's hard to say everything I have to say, but I'm glad for the experience. I'm glad I was the first. Would I send my 6-year-old off to a school like Grafton, Bethel? I don't know, but I'm glad it was me. I'm glad I went. And if you don't learn anything else, if you watch the Super Bowl at halftime, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about the halftime show. I got the message. And I hope everybody else got the message from Bad Bunny. But at the end, he said, the only thing that trumps hate is love. So remember that. The only thing, I don't care what comes at you, what they do, what they say. Right now, it's like everybody is going backwards and we should be moving ahead. Keep pushing ahead. Don't stop. Keep pushing, and you can do it with grace. You can do it with dignity and do it with intelligence and pride, okay? But just keep pushing. That's all. Thank you.